Tonight, another installment in our exclusive series on the JFK files. An update on a strange story of a policeman named Roscoe White. His son and his wife claimed he killed the president. Others say it's a hoax. Night Beat's Richard Ray reports, at the very least, it's a tale filled with remarkable coincidence.
Roscoe White joined the Dallas Police Department in October 1963. 6 weeks later, President Kennedy was assassinated. Lee Harvey Oswald was arrested. White worked then in the ID section where crime photographs were processed. Years later, several photos of Oswald turned up in White's possession, including this third backyard rifle pose that the Warren Commission never saw. White and Oswald served in the Marines at the same time and shipped out to Asia on the same vessel. Though no one's established they knew each other. According to FBI files, White and Officer J.D. Tippit may well have known each other, though others dispute that. Tippit was the policeman Oswald allegedly murdered. We also know that White's wife, Geneva, and Jack Ruby were photographed together. Geneva claimed that for a short time she worked for the nightclub owner who gunned down Oswald. Roscoe White died in a 1971 fire and explosion. Was it an accident or murder? Again, it depends on whom you ask. White's wife and his youngest son went public 2 summers ago, claiming the series of coincidences are really the trail of conspiracy, that White was an assassin.
He was one of 3 men that fired shots. Kennedy was hit 3 times.
I have to admit that I listened to Ricky. I listened to all those that told me the stories because I really thought that Ricky couldn't possibly, come up with something like that about his own father if it weren't true.
But soon Linda Wells and a great many people had reason to doubt Ricky and Geneva's stories. Documents they produced turned out to be forgeries. They'd signed contracts to sell book and movie rights. The story quickly faded from the headlines. Researcher Dave Perry spent a year and a half checking it out. He says if there's any truth to the story, it's been lost amid deception and greed.
I'm not exactly sure who cooked it up, but what happened was once the thing started rolling, a whole bunch of other people got involved with it and saw the opportunity to make some money with it.
There's no way he could have done any of those things.
But now a respected Houston lawyer claims to have a client, an aging mafia hitman who can link White to the plot. And White's ministers talking publicly about all that he says he heard from both Geneva and Roscoe after they dedicated their lives to Christ and before they died.
He said that he had done it, what he had done in the line of duty. He had done for his country. He had thought all the time that he was working with the CIA. He later discovered he'd been tricked.
There is no question that Reverend Shaw spent some intimate moments with the Whites. He was there at the hospital while Roscoe died. He presided at the funeral. But what he says White told him is explosive stuff. Tomorrow night we'll lay it all out. We'll let you decide what it means.
All right,
John
Richard.
Clarice?
We'll look forward to it. Thanks very much. Growing pressure to release secret JFK assassination files is apparently paying off. CIA Director Robert Gates said if Congress and the Bush administration agree to declassify them, he'll open up the Kennedy files. Gates also promised to expand a unit that reviews such materials. You've been watching our own examination of the JFK files for the last few weeks. Tonight it continues with a closer look at Roscoe White. Roscoe White is the ex-police officer. The story of a string of strange coincidences around his life, or is it the trial of conspiracy? Night Beat's Richard Ray has the exclusive report.
Roscoe White's wife, Geneva, and his youngest son, Ricky, were the first to publicly label him an assassin, one of 3 men who they claimed fired shots at JFK.
From the grassy knoll, my father had shot a throat shot and a fatal head wound.
Ricky said the FBI stole a diary that backed his story. Later, a second diary was produced, but it and other documents turned out to be forgeries. The whole affair was widely dismissed. Now it surfaces again. A Baptist minister talks about the days before White died, what White told him the day he dedicated his life to Christ.
He had taken lives on foreign soil and American soil. He asked God to forgive him. He said that he had done it, what he had done in the line of duty. He had done for his country.
Reverend Shaw said he didn't understand at the time, didn't know about the remarkable series of coincidences that Roscoe White joined the police department just weeks before the assassination. That years later, several photographs of Lee Harvey Oswald turned up in his possession. including a third backyard rifle pose investigators did not know existed. That White and Oswald shipped out on the same marine transport vessel. That Geneva White had been photographed with and claimed she once worked for Jack Ruby. Dave Perry is a researcher who's decided it's all just coincidence.
What they're trying to do is use bits and pieces of information to get these massive leaps of faith for you to believe these things, you know, like the fatal fire.
The fatal fire happened here in 1971. It was called M&M Equipment Company then, and Roscoe White was working as a welder. There was an explosion under his bench. It blew him against the wall, horribly burned. He lived less than 2 days. Among those he talked to before he died was Reverend Jack Shaw.
And he saw someone leaving the building with a briefcase in their hand. He knew that it wasn't an accident.
There's no question Jack Shaw was the White's pastor. He was at the hospital. He presided at the funeral. He says Roscoe never directly confessed. It was Geneva, Shaw says, who spelled it all out for him, the alleged connections with government agents and mobsters.
He had thought all the time that he was working with the CIA. He later discovered he'd been tricked.
For White's sister, who lives in Garland, none of this rings true. It simply hurts.
There's no way that I'll ever believe that he told Jack Shaw or anybody else that he had killed anyone.
But Jack Shaw is not alone. A Houston lawyer claims he has a client who was in on the plot and is willing to talk. Also, Roscoe White is named as one of the shooters in a new book out by mobster San Giancana and his nephew, which alleges there was an alliance between some in the CIA and the Mafia.
Still interesting, Richard. Keep it up.